We're excited to have so many of you join us today. With over 203 registrations, we obviously hit a nerve here, something that we all must be sharing and grappling with. You know, when we talk about elevating your mission, for many of us, you know, we really wish that the needs in our society were such that we really could close our doors and not have to be in business at all. However, the demand is not reducing, it's increasing. Um, and so daily we're asking ourselves, you know, what, how do we do more? And how often we're coupling with that, how do I do more with less? And today we're going to share with you secrets that we've learned over our extensive involvement with nonprofit organizations in terms of working with them. So I'm excited about this. I'm excited to share this platform with Jill Byrne today, a partner, technology partner, enabler specialist from Sylogist, who's with us. Jill brings to us a wealth of information from her experience in terms of working with nonprofits. You're going to see her excitement as she gets into her side of the presentation. It's fueled by 20 years of experience working in this sector, heavily engaged in the donor side and solutions for nonprofits in that area. So I'm excited to have Jill with us today. Myself, Bob Sullivan, a few career lifetimes have moved from education, president of a national association through technology here, as founder and president of InfoGrow. You know, our core belief at InfoGrow is that organizations are most effective when they have that one view of the client relationship, and that everyone is sharing that relationship, that information in that client relationship to help move things forward. How do we help support clients, members, donors, influencers? And that's what we're all about. So let's get started here. And remember to post your questions in the Q&A. And I'm also going to apologize ahead of time if my voice sort of dries out. We've been in the Midwest here, and it's been sub-zero temperatures, and we're all drying out. And so occasionally we just lose our way as we're talking. So excuse me in advance for that. Today, our agenda is to look at what has changed in the donation landscape. Do that briefly because we're aware of some of these changes that are driving our behaviors. And what must nonprofits really need to do differently here? The secrets that we'll be sharing with you are secrets that we've learned over the years working with nonprofits. And we're going to give you share those secrets. Jill will be walking you through a demo of a platform that's showing how those secrets can be implemented, how they can be achieved. And then I'll address the overview of the Dynamics platform itself, and we'll jump into your Q&A sessions. So we look forward to having you with us. The new reality here, and it may not be quite so new for some of you, is that donors continue to be more generous. You know, that's somewhat very much the good news. However, the number of donors that we're seeing is dropping, and it's happening across all giving levels, including the retention of donors. And we're all grappling in our different ways, you know, with this reality. It speaks to some of the issues that donor has in terms of their expectations. Those expectations are higher. We're seeing issues of where 80% of donors are more likely to contribute if they can be shown to be involved in the program. They're looking at giving more if they can see the expectations of what their donation is involved with. And many donors are now looking at how do we see these outcomes? How do we be involved with outcomes? And we're seeing that the younger donors are even more driven by wanting to be involved with the organization far more often and seeing those expectations. Now we can take these two slides and combine them together and use how they're going to drive our actions and use them as what we have come to believe really three secrets that will help you, really elevate your mission. So let's start with those now. Secret one, create and maintain a solid data foundation. That one view of truth is what we're talking about. A database that gives you one view, one truth about your relationship with your clients, your members, your donors, other people that influence your growth. It's essential for your stability and sustainable growth. Everyone, getting everyone on the same page, sharing information, not having silos that allows them that people are having to jump around to different platforms or through different Excel files to find information, just improves so much your ability to work with your clients and to work as a team together. Jill's going to show us some examples of how this can be put into action when we address this secret. The secret tool, too, then, is turning that data into actionable insights. You know, we got a lot of information, we got a lot of data, but do we have insights? And how do we get a complete picture of the relationship that we have with our donor that we can act upon? Again, we'll let Jill show you what might help you move the needle in your organization for achieving this goal. And secret 3 is that you have so many communities that you're trying to stay engaged with. You know, how do you frame your message and use technology to engage with each, to be consistent with that? We'll walk through what the guides are using a solid CRM and how that can affect you when you're plugging in your marketing automation tool with this to help move things forward with you in that area. So with that in mind, let me turn things over to Jill. And again, Jill, the floor is yours to walk us through these 3 secrets.
Thank you. All right, so the tour, as I'm your tour guide today, as Bob mentioned, I'm going to take you through these main areas that we're here to see about creating and maintaining solid data. Of course, good data means, what is that? That's reliable data, accurate data. Maybe you have some data standards that you're thinking about implementing or making standard across your organization. So I'm going to show you things like building automation to enforce those standards. So the data that you're collecting from various systems, being able to integrate that data within the system, practicing good hygiene, like making sure that the records are up to date and being connected to the change of address database, configuring those data entry fields to make it so that when folks are adding data, maybe you've got volunteers at your organization that's helping you with data entry. So let's keep that data uniform as it's coming in, and being able to integrate or collect that data into one platform. As you heard Bob mention, being able to work with your donors, work with the data related to your donors is sure a lot easier when it's consolidated or collected into one system to give you that complete picture of the donor and their engagement. So we'll take a look at bringing data in from other systems. And I'm going to talk about some integrations as we go along, some that are native with the system that will really help collect that data and, again, be able to turn it into those actionable insights, because data tells us where to go and how to act. And you guys all know that. So how do I get that data into something I can consume? So that's dashboards, reporting, and then logical and effective segments. Segments are, collecting your data, collecting the information you have around your donors, and being able to position them appropriately within the marketing and those different types of communications, those touch points. You want to be able to speak their language so that they hear your message. And that can be accomplished through journeys and those personalized experiences, just like what Bob was mentioning before. So with that, let's dive in. I'm going to share my screen here. Move our little Teams window over. All right, so what you're looking at right now is a dashboard. And I'm going to start off by kind of explaining where we're at. So this is Dynamics 365, so Microsoft Dynamics. And within Dynamics, you have the opportunity of having a collection of different apps. So really the apps that are sitting on top of the basically the dataverse where all the data is going in, these apps have different functions to, just like you use apps on your phone. The difference is underneath here is the same data. These are just different features or functions or maybe tools in the toolbox. And so we're going to take a majority of our time looking at Mission CRM, which is the nonprofit CRM that we'll be spending most of our time in today. But I'm also going to touch on like volunteer management, which comes part of the nonprofit volunteer management application, as you see here, that comes in from TSI, the Tech for Social Good. So back here to Mission CRM. That's my CRM that we'll be demonstrating a lot in today. I'm seeing that from the lens of my database manager. So we're going to start with some dashboards. So Ken, he's responsible for a handful of things, but most of it is related to keeping our data effective and up to date. So maybe he needs to see some things. When he comes in each day, he's looking for, are there certain tags in the system that I need to be applying? Maybe I had some contact records that were edited this week. And maybe some accounts, accounts, AKA organizations or business records in the system. It's really important there is having up-to-date address information. So as Ken comes in each day, he can take a look at these simmering pots, so to speak, and maybe take and expand this information out so that he can examine it a little closer. Each one of these, there's a ton of different types of dashboards that come with the system that are there for you to be able to leverage and use and create these types of dashboards that are effective for your line of work. So thinking of Ken, maybe he wants to be notified whenever there's been a record in the system that has been updated to deceased. And maybe that is something that Ken needs to approve so that he can go take a look at that. Here's just an example of using the power flows behind the system, so such as being able to trigger or have notifications. So for Ken coming in the morning, he's got an inbox that's letting him know, hey, here's some things that changed related to the records in the system. Let's move on to another persona, such as Alejandra. She is managing the volunteers. So from what she wants to see when she's coming in is related to all of the volunteer. Now, what I mentioned earlier with that app gallery, notice that we've got volunteer management. Again, this is just another tool in the toolbox. So from the lens of what Alejandra does day in and day out, she's managing and engaging with the volunteers in the system. We're going to collect that data. I don't have to go off into the volunteer and management area. If I'm Alejandra, I can bring and serve up that information right here and be able to work from these lists. Maybe I want to expand this, my active engagements here, opportunities. I can open up these little graphics, these dashboards, and be able to actually work within this dashboard. And maybe there's some updating that I need to do and so forth. She can drill in. She can examine these a little closer if she needs to. Different types of views of this information is also available. And put it right back into her overall comprehensive view and so forth. So there's Alejandra working within the system and being able to very easily dive in and do her work from those different dashboard views. And of course, dashboards are there's a ton of different ones that come with the system. And then you're also able to take a look at some Power BI reports that also come with the system. And these can be super effective on top of not only serving up information in a nice view, but maybe I want to take a look at some donors that are aging. Again, taking the data and serving it up or collecting it and presenting it in a way that helps you make strategies, decisions. How do we want to market? Where are we going? And those types of dashboards, of course, are right here in the system, easy for you to be able to access and use and configure for everybody in the organization. And you can send them out via email if you want. And I do want to make sure I mention as we go along with our tour that everything I'm showing you today is something that you're able to pull up on your phone, if you use a tablet, if you're out on the road working, all of this information and being able to work within the data is also something you're able to do from your phones. So let's take a look at the list. So earlier, you heard us mention that integrating with your various systems. So you may be using other systems for things, such as maybe Eventbrite, or you've got another system that's helping to collect information and so forth. So bringing all of that, integrating all of that within one system, Mission CRM, that definitely helps. And so bringing that data in, and now what am I doing with it? Maybe I want to have a different way of looking. And so we're going to take a look at the different types of list views. These ones that you're seeing with the little avatars, those are ones that I've created or my colleagues have created and we're sharing amongst each other. And then there's others that are standard with the system, such as being able to see my lapsed donors. So these are maybe donors that gave last year but haven't given in a while, or however you define that. Of course, that's all going to be collected. You have the ability to change these columns and views, and also create your own lists. Pull up the filters and change this around, and then create your own way of looking at this information. Once you have that collected, maybe there's some actions we want to take here. I'm going to open up my lapsed donor list here. I can edit these records all at once. I can add them into different types of sequences. So sequences are essentially taking that donor through a series of steps, and there's a variety of different options for that. These types of sequences, maybe it's one that you want to start to increase that engagement. So again, if these are my lapsed donors, how do I get their interest again? Maybe it's sending them an email, inviting them to an event. Then we want to pause for a little bit and maybe add them into discovery. So increasing that engagement can be something that's very prescriptive as you assign that to those contacts, and then hopefully being able to increase their engagement. I also can do things like we were talking about how easy it is to get information into this system a little earlier, such as being able to import. Bob mentioned maybe you've got an Excel sheet that you're working off of. Wouldn't it be great to bring in that information and use the power of the system to be able to engage and work with those records? Or maybe I want to export this out. Maybe I need to do a little bit of data, some cleanup here. You can export this list out into Excel Online and then do those updates live right there in the database, or right there in the Excel spreadsheet, and have it reflect instantly back into the database. I also can do things like attached flows to these. Flows, thinking of ways that, again, making the system work for you. So being able to do more with less, being able to automatically have action take place on these records based on certain triggers. And so, in other words, have the system do some of the work for you. Really easy to do in our system here. And so for these lapsed donors, maybe I want to send them out an email, as you saw that journey that I've got there. And so we can attach certain messaging emails, for example, to have those trigger based on that activity, and that's whatever we define. And so in this case, maybe we're saying if the donor at one time has come to an event or maybe engaged with us, but we haven't heard from them for a while, whatever that definition happens to be, that's how you would define that flow and have those emails go out automatically without any of your staff members having to send that. And I've got lots of different types of examples of emails and messaging that's going out automatically, whether that's to the donors or maybe to my fundraising team and so forth. So flows are really kind of the not to get too far into the techie weeds, but you're going to be able to create things using Power Automate, for example, that automatically do things in the system. So that's part of that, work smart, not hard, and have those triggers defined so that the system does things automatically for you. So let's take a look at the contact record in the system. One of my kind of favorite records here to kind of play with and demo with is Brian Cranston. His record, I'm going to take you on a quick tour of some of the things that you'll have available on the contact record. So I like to think of it as different views. So let's examine how the donor records, how you can view the donor records in a manner that serves up the data in a meaningful way. So thinking of that volunteer, Alejandra in volunteer management, maybe she wants to take a look at Brian from the lens of his volunteer activity. So earlier, I showed you where volunteer management is another tool in the toolbox. We've got a whole another area I can go and manage volunteers, but what if I'm working inside of the CRM and I also want to see that volunteer? So rather than going over and having to access that volunteer app, why don't we just bring that data right here into the contact view? And so we accomplish that using these various types of views. And you can surface those types of views based on security, based on roles that people have in the organization. And so from here, I'm getting to see Brian's participation history. So hopefully you notice that the view of Brian changed. So now I'm being presented with all of his activities as he works with us as a volunteer. I can very easily change that view back over to looking at Brian from the lens of being our board member and how he's active on the board. And so again, same contact record, just serving up that data based on how do I want to look at Brian? What kind of information do I want to see related to his interactions with our organization? So if we go here to on his contact record, we also have the opportunity to pop over to his household. His household is kind of a collection of data that's related to all of the members of his household. So he may have, a spouse, maybe his children still live at home, whatever that happens to be. I can take and use the data related comprehensively to his whole household and also make actions upon that. So back to Brian's main record here, let's take a look at his timeline. The timeline is capturing all of our engagement with Brian. I was going to do a quick little summary here, but I'm going to see things like maybe we need to send him a receipt for giving. I had a phone call to him. He emailed us back. I capture those. I can send him out his pledge reminder. So everything that's going on in my engagement with Brian, whether that's me as a fundraiser, me as a volunteer manager, is he registering for our events? Everything that's happening with Brian is going to be captured on that timeline. You can search within the timeline, pull up specific things, and be able to engage with him and see that history as what he has in the in our organization. Earlier, I mentioned some of the integrations. One of the native integrations that Mission CRM offers is with Melissa Data Enrichment Services. And so thinking of Ken and his work of keeping addresses up to date, maybe we want to, we know that Brian moved. We want to go ahead and clean that address, bring up anything related to the NCOA, and then also standardize our addresses. There's a variety of different ways of doing that. I think one of the ones that I really like is these address fields and all of the data entry fields within the system can be configured based on whatever your standards are. So if you require certain data and you want all of your volunteers or all of your staff members, when they're adding new records or changing records, to always put values in, we can make that be a mandatory field. Or if you have a specific way that you want data to be entered into the fields, that also can be something that's tailored during your configuration and so forth. Let's see. And so from here, I also could take a look at if Brian happens to have any events, all of the related menu items. So I don't want you to think like this is all we see. Part of the awesomeness of Mission CRM is it's collecting a lot of information, such as maybe various documents that we have and so forth. And if he's given consent, has he registered for events? Is he part of our membership? Does he have specific opportunities or asks related to major giving? As you can see, there's a ton of information that comes along with the system. It's really up to you to decide, how do I want to present this information? What do I want to see, not only from a user point, but also from an organization, and you'll make those decisions as you work in the system of what you want to bring up to everybody's fingertips. So from Brian's donations, of course, this is kind of the heart of the system, is the fundraising side or the gift processing. And we could have gifts coming in from a variety of different places. Maybe you've got phone-a-thons or text to give campaigns, Giving Tuesday, memberships. And let's not forget our donation pages. Our donation pages, that's just another way that you could have revenue coming through the door. And so donation pages in Mission CRM are unlimited. You can spin up as many donation pages as you like. The nice part about the donation pages is they also have the ability to standardize your data as it's coming in. So you heard me mention before, like Melissa Data Enrichment Services, and what that means is as your donors are filling out these forms, have the system present to them a unified data of their address, the unified form of their address. So then when they're done and they make their donation, it's coming into the system already uniform and based on how you want to be accurate with that data, with that address data. And so again, as I mentioned, you could have different options related to these donation pages. So this is just kind of looking behind the covers. And I just wanted to point out that you can have your address verification standards, whether you're using a service like Melissa Data Enrichment Services or others. You can, link that so that, again, as your donors are giving on your donation pages, those addresses are standardized and they're coming into the system the way that you need them to. And so another way that data could come in, as you heard me mention a few moments ago, is maybe you have other systems. You're using Eventbrite, Cvent, or Fundraise Up. If you've got systems that you really like and your staff really enjoy using them and they're comfortable with it, that's great. We're not asking you to stop using those, but what we're going to say is, why don't we bring that data in? And what'll happen is we can configure that import so that it's standardized as it's coming in. Once that data comes into Mission CRM, it'll present it to you in a batch. So then you can examine those records, make sure that they're coming in the way that you need them according to your data standards. And maybe you want to personalize this batch so that it has some standards, it has some defaults. And then once you're ready to import that data, you'll go ahead and bring all that in. And then maybe that alerts Ken, who's our database manager, or maybe it fires off some other things, such as being able to attach those new donors to some marketing efforts, maybe some sequences. So let's talk about, now that we've kind of covered bringing data in, keeping it clean, and we know that our data is reliable. Now, what can I do with it? And so let's talk about segments. So we kind of have been talking about our lapsed donors, or maybe those donors that gave it one time and maybe their engagement is kind of waning and we want to spark that up again. And so segments can be automated in the system so that based on that criteria, based on whatever those triggers happen to be, I want to add them to those segments so then I can put them on a journey. So a journey is essentially identifying from that list or multiple lists, multiple segments. You can have as many different types of segments as you want. And then I want to increase their engagement again. So maybe I'm sending them out a newsletter. Did they click on that? Did they open that newsletter? Yes or no? Kind of depends on whether or not they go through different journeys here, different paths throughout. And so these types of journeys and your segments can be automated. So in other words, based on however you define these segments and define the criteria for them meeting those marketing lists and so forth, they're dynamic. So as your data is changing in the system, as they're engaging with you or not engaging with you, that's going to help drive which segments that they end up in, what journeys, what marketing materials we're sending to them, and so forth. And then to be able to monitor all of that. So of course, reporting is also important too, and being able to kind of monitor what's going on with those various types of campaigns that we're doing. What are the appeals? So those are the asks, and then the packages themselves. What are the literals that went out the door? And so monitoring all of this and being able to take a look at how is this performing? And so you'll see how many, did we get any donations based on? So again, your efforts. So what's going out the door? How are we engaging with the donors? I want to be able to monitor that, the effectiveness. Are they clicking on things? Did that stimulate a donation to come in? And so you're going to be able to watch that and monitor that. Now I'm going right into the appeal record, but of course, within the system, we've got dashboards, KPIs, different types of Power BI reports. You can also go into the related menu and see specifically, did we have any donations related to this fall digital? What are the transactions that came in? And that's all related to that fall digital effort that went out to hopefully bring in donations and increase engagement. So again, very easily be able to see that, work with that data, be able to assign flows related. So if these folks gave, maybe then we want to send them out not just a thank you, but also maybe invite them to an event that's related to that initiative that we mentioned in that campaign messaging and so forth. Of course, campaigns themselves are kind of like the overarching, and we can look at that performance from a higher level too, not just the individual appeal, but maybe that overarching campaign and how is that campaign doing. And again, same thing in the related menu. I can see kind of a broader overarching, how did the transactions across that campaign as a whole, and very easily be able to see those transactions that are coming in. So again, just to reiterate, the segments, they are dynamic. And so as different engagement happens, different qualifiers. So you can see there's a handful of different segments. You can create these yourselves. You can take a look at them, their effectiveness, who are the members of these segments, and be able to interact with them, assign them to journeys, put them into a quick campaign if you want to. That's kind of just a one-off email, and so forth. So let's see. Get my agenda moving on here. All right. So in a nutshell, we've taken a look at how our data comes into the system from various sources, how we can, keep ahead of that, keep our data uniform, keep it clean, run different types of flows or different types of actions in the system to scrub that data, keep that data clean. That's what Ken's in charge of. And then making sure that we're keeping up with the engagement, watching those journeys, and hopefully that's bringing in more donors as we go along, and keeping their relationship with us strong. All right, Bob, I'm going to pass the baton off to you for our little summary here.
Thank you so much, Jill. Fantastic. Let me reload things here. Here we go. Get back to where we were. And I'm going to jump ahead a bit. Let me move down here to where we are. It didn't come back to where it should be, so I'm going to have to skip through a few bits of slides. Yeah, fantastic. And again, the piece that we want to address here, and let me jump through this slide and come back, is how you were able to show in terms of the three secrets that we're addressing here. You have to have this solid data foundation in terms of building this information out to have a starting point. And everyone shares that. You're breaking down silos. Data is not being kept in one person's Outlook file or someone else's Excel file. Everything is in one place, and people are going there and updating the information. I always use the example when we're talking to a client is that, there's no reason in this kind of a system that your executive director is not walking into a board meeting, seeing on the phone what is the giving history of those 6 board members, and having that information at the palm of her hand as she walks into the meeting. That's possible with sharing data and having it together, and obviously having effective communications with how you then communicate with your publics, because you know about them. You have the segmentation ability of being able to share that information of where you want to go with them. So as you prepare some of your questions that you want to address to us, let me walk back a bit and share with you a little bit about the platform that Jill was alluding to here. We start with first a core CRM system, and this is Dynamics 365 Sales Module. This is the core platform, and different modules sit on top of it. Jill was walking through the demonstration of the fundraising application from Mission CRM. That's sitting on top of it. She alluded to the volunteer management solution that is another module that can sit on top of the core data. This system allows you to attract individuals to your organizations, do all the vetting requirements, the application forms, and manage that whole vetting process with them, and then give them a portal for self-registering themselves. So you're using the marketing automation tool, the journey tool that Jill was mentioning, to send out to your volunteers. We need coverage for pulling weeds on this bike path these days. Sign up now, and they self-register, and you get to monitor that. Event management can be another module that sits on top of the tool. Shame data that's sharing. You can give access to your users through a portal so they can start seeing beyond even the volunteer side, but maybe you want to be sharing this information with the development users too, in terms of their giving history, and you're sharing it through a portal. Some organizations, which I don't even have here showing this, is sharing information with their board through Teams and sharing the individual records. That's all possible with the Microsoft Dynamics system as a platform that's completely integrated with Office 365. Marketing automation, as we mentioned, sitting in the cloud to give access to higher level reporting and other applications, the reporting side, or connecting to your accounting system. Business Central is the Microsoft system. Again, one database that's sitting in the cloud of Microsoft on Azure, plugged at the hip with Word, Outlook, Excel to give you that functionality. That's how we get everything in one place. So while you prepare your questions, let me pop open a slide that we're looking at today in terms of an offer here we have for you. And Scott, let me turn it over to you and see if we have some questions coming in.
Yes, we have quite a few coming in actually. And as we're going through these, as a reminder, just use the Q&A section on your top bar to ask these, and we'll get to as many as we can. So this first one, it was actually asked by two different people. They're somewhat similar, so I'll combine them. The first part is, have you ever had customers moving to this platform from Razor's Edge? And if so, how was the experience with the data migration? And then the other person asked just how involved is it to import data into this system?
I'm going to take the first part of that question and let Jill jump into the second part of the question because she has extensive experience coming from the black bog world herself. The biggest issue in terms of that kind of movement is exactly what you're bringing up, is data migration. It's an ugly process if your data has not been standardized and cleaned. You're familiar with some of the problems, some of the issues you have and how data is organized in the Razor's Edge. It is a lifting exercise. It's probably the biggest part of the project in terms of making that move. The first question for you to ask is how much of it you want to bring across. Is it everything? Is it X number of years? And you work through there. But it is a task. It is something that both of us do all the time. Jill, what's your thoughts in that area?
Well, you hit the nail on the head. Is a lot of it is, during implementation, we spend a lot of time talking about your current data, how you want to bring that in, how far back, and so forth. And then as far as other systems, you heard me mention before, using that data import tool, during configuration, during implementation, we'll identify the various systems and what is that data that we want to be bringing in and create those standard import templates. And then it's just bringing the data in. You saw me show it staged in a batch. That gives your staff the time to review that data, to make sure that it's the way it needs to be to come in. So you're not just bringing in a bunch of junk, you're bringing in valuable information, usable information. And again, a lot of that happens, as Bob mentioned, during implementation, and it's probably the heaviest lift of the implementation is getting that data right.
Yes. Scott, any additional questions?
Just to confirm, I know, but just for everyone, the same could be said no matter what they're coming from, whether
Absolutely.
It's Razor's Edge or Donor
Yes.
Perfect. Yes.
Some systems, give their data up easier than others, and Razor's Edge is one of those that doesn't, but it's definitely a chore, and we've been through that and been there, done that, and know the pains that you have to go through in that process. Go ahead.
These next ones I can answer myself real quick. The recording for this will be available. You should see an email sometime tomorrow. It will be available to everyone who attended, so you don't have to worry about missing out on any of this information. You'll all be able to get it. The next one, also kind of a two-part, two different people asked a similar question, so I'll combine them. Are all of these tools, well, first I'll start with this one. What were all the tools that were shown during the demonstration that you gave? And then are all of these part of one system, or are they all separate add-ons at a separate price?
So again, back to the platform. The core of the platform is Dynamics 365 Sales. That's in place. And that's available in terms of through Microsoft. The nonprofit pricing for that is $23.80 per user for a month. That's the core platform. Then you add modules to it. So the main module we were talking about today was the development software from Mission CRM. The volunteer management software we also hinted about and showed some connections to it. That is an add-on that Microsoft provides at no cost in terms of working with there. The marketing automation tool then is the journey tool that's added to the process. That comes with a subscription cost too. And all of those four tools are what you saw today in play at some point in time. The issue beyond that then is the deployment time. How much in terms of involvement that you want to be involving with this and working through it. One of our approaches is what we call co-manage approach, of where we're just not going to dump software on you, train you, and wish you a lot of luck. We're going to hold your hand over the first year of working with this software and be there as a coach, as the strategic guidance, because often you're in a position of, calling tech support is meaningless if you don't know what to ask. And these issues are not about technology. It's about the behaviors you're trying to reinforce. So you don't know what you don't know. And we want to be there to give you guidance on how to move forward with it.
Yes, and then I'll follow up. This one sort of came through as you were saying that. Just to confirm, the pricing is entirely based on users, nothing about the amount of records or anything of that sort.
The nothing in terms of dynamics, and nothing in terms of volunteer, and nothing in terms of the Mission CRM piece. The marketing automation tool does have, because of the email credits that you receive with the tool, does have a user account associated with it. But you need to be getting over, there's a couple of different counts on that, and one of them is if you're dropping out more than 100,000 emails a month, we've got to talk about some more additional charges on that tool. But yeah.
We had one come through. Can this CRM connect to our accounting side of things?
I'm going to say yes, but which accounting? And
Yeah.
Seamlessly, and there's a big question here about why. So usually when you're addressing CRM and accounting from the development side, you're trying to, the CRM is the collection point of all the donations. You have your credit card processing, your landing pages, et cetera, bringing all that information into Dynamics CRM and putting it there. Now you need to push those batch processes that you've done in terms of the amount of money you collected a day as a journal entry over into your accounting system. Microsoft accounting systems are easier, others are harder, but we haven't encountered any of them that's not doable. It just depends on the system. We avoid some of the lower end systems like QuickBooks, because they're probably not giving you the kind of reporting you need anyway in that area. Jill, what's your, Sylogist offers a system of their mission ERP. What's been your experience with that system and other ERP systems?
Sure. Yeah, here at Sylogist, we offer the CRM, which I showed you today, and then Bob's right. We have also an ERP that we call it the full fundraising to finance story of how the two systems, as Bob said, you're bringing in you're collecting your donors and their donations in the CRM, but your accounting system, of course, that's the credits and the debits in your GL, and they need to talk. So I'd say that the best is, of course, using both Sylogist mission products. In scenarios where there are other finance systems being used, we certainly can during discovery and find out what is that system, are we integrating with that, how are we getting that data, and so that usually is a conversation that we take on before we start implementing, and we work with a variety of different Sage Intacct, Financial Edge. We've got customers using QuickBooks, whatever that happens to be. We'll integrate with that and make sure that whatever finance needs and requires, they're getting what they need.
Good. Scott, and I'll remind you, while Scott looks another one too, the offer that's available here. We're happy to sit down with you and have this kind of conversation with you and talk about strategically do an assessment of where you're at with what you have now, and give you a bit of a roadmap of understanding. Here's how you ought to be thinking about different solutions and where you can start planning your work to head that direction. Scott, others?
Yep. We're getting quite a few coming through, so I'll try to combine them and pick out the big ones.
Great.
This one sort of I'll combine. There's a lot that are going in. Let's just say this. We are a smaller organization and they're just concerned about the size of this. Can this solution be scaled to a smaller org?
The piece of it that we do in terms of InfoGrow provides, we've been talking about the development tool that we showed you today was Mission CRM. We also use a tool provided by Microsoft called Fundraising and Engagement. It obviously doesn't have all the bells and whistles and features that this tool has, as you see today, but we're quite comfortable in terms of deploying that and showing you the differences and giving you a way of getting started for a smaller organization.
And then I guess a follow-up to that is, one wants to know what is considered a smaller organization. Do you wear a smaller mid-sized nonprofit? And we currently have about 30 employees. They're just wondering.
You're probably not a smaller one at 30 employees at that point. I would say if your annual revenue that you're generating from your donation efforts is under 3 million, you'd be in the range of being more of a smaller organization.
Yeah.
Yep. And as these questions are coming through, if we don't get a chance to get to yours, we do have our contact information at the end. You can feel free to take advantage of this offer that we have on the screen now, as well as if you have any further questions, anything deeper, you'd like to just have a conversation about the solution, you can reach out to us here. But do we have time for more, or?
Let's try 2 more, and then we'll wrap it up here. We've taken enough of people's time, but let's see if we have 1 or 2 more, we'll take it.
This one, we are newer to the fundraising side of things, but have worked with lots of volunteers in the past. How would we get started with something like this?
Well, the biggest thing to keep in mind is that you start with a core database, and a core database is going to give you the ability to hold all your influencers, all your clients, all your volunteers in terms of working with that. You don't need to start with the development side. You can get the foundation done by having all your contacts in one place and started getting all your volunteers in one place and start working through that process of moving yourselves forward. and changing the culture about how you share information and how you're giving that one view of the relationship. So, you don't, some organizations start with just CRM itself and are using that. We've built those out to help handle organizations that just have members and are collecting dues, and that's how they work. Association, a bar association for a state or something like that, that just has core members and events, and that's all they're involved with. Maybe later on, they're adding the development side or adding. They're doing another organization might just have volunteers. So the beauty of this is that it sits on top of a core database that can be changed very easily. The term I use is configuration. Very little that we do inside of the database and the views ends up being customizations or programming. It's all the ability to change and configure the views within the application itself, and things that we want to teach you to be able to do too. Well, I think we're out of time here.
Can you bring up the contact information slide again?
I'll
just put that up to end on.
Yeah. This is a live connection if you want to use it to schedule an assessment. And here's our contact information again. Jill, I'm very appreciative of your time today. This was super. And we look forward to working with you. And if any of you have any kinds of conversations, don't hesitate to reach out. We appreciate it. Jill, any thoughts that you want to share?
This was great. And thank you so much for having me come in and be a guest speaker and show off all the capabilities. And as someone that's supported nonprofits for many, many years, this platform, as Bob mentioned, it's very easy to tailor and make it do the things that you do. And so, yeah, give us a call.
And on one final note, be sure you're staying warm out there and enjoy. Take care. Thanks a lot, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.